Rain poured relentlessly over Seattle's downtown, turning the streets into a shimmering maze of reflections from neon signs and headlights. Sarah Thompson stood at the corner of Pike Street and Fifth Avenue, clutching my umbrella while waiting for the crosswalk light to change. It was a typical April evening in 2018, the air thick with the scent of wet asphalt and coffee from nearby cafes. My mind wandered to Ethan Brooks, my childhood sweetheart, whose warm smile had been my anchor since we were kids growing up on Capitol Hill. We were engaged, our future bright with plans for a wedding at the Chihuly Garden and Glass, a venue as vibrant as our dreams. But in a single moment, everything changed. A truck barreled through the intersection, its tires screeching against the slick pavement. I froze, the world slowing as its headlights blinded me. Suddenly, a figure tackled me to the ground, my umbrella skittering across the sidewalk. Pain shot through my elbow as I hit the concrete, but the truck roared past, missing me by inches. Gasps and shouts erupted from the crowd as I scrambled to my feet, heart pounding. My savior, a lanky man with dark hair, lay crumpled a few feet away, struck by a sedan that swerved to avoid the truck. Blood seeped from his leg and his face contorted in agony. "Are you okay?" I stammered, rushing to his side. His name was Ryan, a stranger who'd risked everything to push me out of harm's way. Paramedics arrived, their sirens cutting through the rain, and whisked him to Harborview Medical Center. I followed, guilt gnawing at me like a relentless tide. At the hospital, Ryan's parents, weary and red-eyed, clutched each other in the waiting room. His mother, her voice trembling, whispered that the accident had shattered his leg and worse, damaged his ability to have children. "He may never marry now," she sobbed. "Who'd want a man so broken?" The weight of their words crushed me. Ryan had sacrificed his future for mine, a debt I couldn't ignore. I visited him daily, bringing coffee from the hospital cafe and small gifts, a Seahawks cap, a book of Pacific Northwest hikes, hoping to ease his pain. Each time his hazel eyes met mine, with a quiet gratitude that deepened my resolve. Ethan, ever supportive, drove me to the hospital, his hand steady on mine, but I saw the flicker of worry in his green eyes. "You don't owe him your life, Sarah," he said one evening, his voice soft but firm. I squeezed his hand, unable to explain the guilt that tethered me to Ryan's bedside. Weeks later, Ryan's prognosis remained grim. His parents' despair echoed in my mind, their words painting a future where Ryan would be alone, his sacrifice unacknowledged. I couldn't bear it. One night, sitting by Lake Washington, the city's skyline glittering across the water, I made a decision that would haunt me. "Ethan," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I have to do this. Ryan saved my life. I can't let him face this alone." Ethan's jaw tightened, eyes searching mine, but he nodded, respecting my choice even as it broke his heart. I called off our engagement, and the ring's absence on my finger was a cold reminder of what I'd given up. 3 months later, I married Ryan in a small ceremony at a Seattle community center, the room adorned with simple daisies instead of the extravagant roses I'd once envisioned. His parents wept with relief, but Ryan's smile was strained, his wheelchair a stark symbol of his sacrifice. I told myself I was doing the right thing, repaying a debt that bound us. Little did I know I'd entered a web of lies that would unravel everything I held dear. As I stood outside the community center, the rain was now a gentle drizzle, and a friend from college, Mia, pulled me aside. "Sarah, you're so brave for this," she said, her eyes shining with admiration. "Your story's inspiring. You should share it, maybe on YouTube. People need to hear about kindness like yours." I laughed, brushing it off, but she pressed, "Seriously, start a channel. Tell the world about second chances. I bet folks would like, comment, and subscribe to hear more." Her words planted a seed, a fleeting thought that maybe sharing my journey could connect me with others. For now, though, I focused on Ryan, unaware that his sacrifice was a carefully crafted deception that would cost me everything. The next 7 years in our modest Renton home slowly descended into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Ryan's mother, Linda, and his sister, Jessica, turned our small suburban house into a battleground. They knew Ryan's accident had left him impotent, yet they hurled insults at me, calling me barren and useless over every burned dinner or unfolded towel. "A real wife would give us a grandchild," Linda sneered one evening, her voice sharp as she stirred soup in the cramped kitchen. Jessica chimed in, mocking, "What's the point of you if you can't even do that?" I swallowed my pain, guilt chaining me to their cruelty. I'd given up Ethan, my inheritance, my dreams, all to honor Ryan's sacrifice. How could I complain? I worked long hours as a barista at a Capitol Hill cafe, my wages supporting Ryan's medical bills and his family's endless demands. My parents' inheritance left to me after their fatal car crash when I was 16 dwindled under the guise of hospital costs. Ryan, who uses a wheelchair, was gentle at first, thanking me for my care, but as years passed, his warmth faded, replaced by a distant coldness. We never shared a bed. His injury was a constant barrier, or so I believed. I clung to my duty, telling myself love could grow from gratitude, even as my heart ached for Ethan, now a tech mogul whose name lit up Seattle's business scene. In the 7th year, everything changed. One spring morning, I returned home early from a shift, the scent of espresso still clinging to my apron. Ryan stood in the living room, stretching his legs like he'd never been injured. My heart raced with hope. "Ryan, you're walking," I gasped. He spun around, his face pale. He stammered that I was going to surprise you for your birthday. The doctor said it's a recent recovery. I wanted to believe him, my relief closing my eyes to the cracks in his story. That night he came home drunk, the smell of whiskey heavy on his breath. We slept together in a rare moment of vulnerability, a clumsy, fleeting act that left me confused but hopeful for a new beginning. Weeks later, I discovered I was pregnant. Joy flooded me, a light in the darkness of those 7 years. I dreamed of a nursery painted in soft blues, of a family that might heal the wounds of the past. But at 8 months, disaster struck. I tripped on a loose rug in our hallway, pain searing through my abdomen. Ryan rushed me to Virginia Mason Hospital, his face a mask of concern. As I lay on the operating table, my body resistant to anesthesia, I remained conscious, my mind sharp despite the pain. Then I heard Ryan's voice, cold as a winter wind. "Remove her uterus with the baby. It's for the best." A friend, Mia, standing nearby, couldn't stay silent. "Ryan, you faked that leg injury to trick Sarah into marrying you," she hissed. "You used her so Emily could marry Ethan Brooks, the wealthiest man in Seattle. Why take her chance to be a mother too?" Ryan's reply was ice. "If I hadn't gotten drunk, that child wouldn't exist. Being my wife for life is compensation enough." The words gutted me, each syllable a blade. My sacrifice, my years of endurance, it was all a lie. Ryan had orchestrated the accident, his injury a sham, to bind me to him, paving the way for Emily, a scholarship student I'd introduced to Ethan, to climb into wealth. My vision blurred as an amniotic fluid embolism stole my breath and the world faded to black. In that final moment, I saw that Ryan's obsession wasn't just about Emily's gain. He craved control, a twisted need to possess me, to keep me from Ethan, whose success he envied. Emily, too, carried a shadow of something more profound, her actions hinting at a knowledge beyond this life. As my heart stopped, a searing light enveloped me, and I knew this wasn't the end. The cosmic force that would grant me rebirth was stirring, ready to give me a chance to rewrite my fate and reclaim the life I'd lost. The darkness of death was not cold or empty as I'd expected. It was a radiant void, pulsing with a warmth that felt ancient, eternal. As my life slipped away on the operating table, a voice deep and resonant, like the hum of the universe itself, spoke to me. "Sarah Thompson," it said, "your heart's purity has earned you a second chance. Rewrite your fate, but choose wisely, for the threads of destiny are fragile." The words ignited something within me, a spark of defiance against the betrayal that had stolen my life. The light intensified, and suddenly I was gasping for air, my senses flooded with the familiar scent of rain-soaked asphalt and the distant wail of Seattle's traffic. I stood at the corner of Pike Street and 5th Avenue, April 2018, the exact moment of the accident 7 years ago. Rain poured down, blurring the neon glow of downtown signs. The same truck barreled toward me, its headlights cutting through the dusk like a predator's eyes. My heart raced, not with fear, but with clarity. I knew what was coming. Across the street, Ryan sprinted toward me, his face a mask of feigned heroism, ready to save me as he had in my past life. But this time, I saw through the lie, his faked injury, his calculated sacrifice to trap me in a marriage that served his and Emily's schemes. Without hesitation, I stepped aside, my boots splashing in a puddle as I moved just out of the truck's path. Ryan's momentum carried him forward, his eyes widening in shock as he realized I wasn't frozen in place. The truck's horn blared, but it was too late. A sickening crunch echoed as metal met flesh, and Ryan's body flew through the air, landing in a heap on the wet pavement. Screams erupted from onlookers, their umbrellas bobbing like dark flowers in the rain. "Call 911. Someone shouted. "He's hurt badly." I stood there, my breath steady despite the chaos. Pain exploded in my elbow from where I'd grazed the sidewalk, but it was nothing compared to the satisfaction blooming in my chest. Ryan's leg, now genuinely shattered, glistened with blood under the streetlights. His face contorted in agony, his hazel eyes locking onto mine with a mix of disbelief and rage. "Sarah," he gasped, his voice hoarse. I met his gaze, my expression cold. I said softly that you wanted to play the hero so only he could hear. Now live with it. The crowd pressed closer, their murmurs a chaotic symphony. A woman in a raincoat knelt beside Ryan, checking his pulse while another fumbled with her phone to call for help. I stepped back, blending into the throng, my mind racing with the implications of my rebirth. The cosmic voice had granted me this chance. But why? Was it only my purity, or was there a greater purpose? And was I the only one given this gift? Ryan's reaction hinted at something more. Did he too know this moment from another life? The thought sent a chill down my spine, but I pushed it aside. This time, I would not be a pawn. Paramedics arrived, their red lights flashing against the wet streets. As they loaded Ryan onto a stretcher, his eyes never left me, a silent accusation burning in them. I turned away, the rain washing over me like a baptism. I was no longer the naive Sarah who'd sacrificed everything for a lie. I would choose my own path, this life starting with reclaiming what I'd lost: Ethan, my family, my future. The truck's taillights faded into the distance, and I walked away from the chaos, my heart pounding with purpose. Seattle's skyline loomed ahead, a promise of the battles yet to come. The next morning, I sat in a quiet corner of a Capitol Hill cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee grounding me as I processed my new reality. The rain had stopped, leaving Seattle's streets glistening under a rare spring sun. My reflection in the cafe's window showed the same face I'd had at 22, unmarred by the 7 years of torment I'd endured in my past life. But my eyes were different, sharper, hardened by the truth I now carried. I sipped my latte, the warmth steadying my hands, and let my mind unravel the past, piecing together the betrayal that had defined my first life. In that life, I'd been a fool, blinded by gratitude. After Ryan's supposed sacrifice, I'd visited him daily at Harborview, each gift a brick in the wall of guilt that trapped me. His parents' despair had seemed so real, their tears convincing me that marrying Ryan was the only way to repay his heroism. I'd given up Ethan Brooks, the boy who'd grown up next door in Capitol Hill, whose family had taken me in after my parents died in a car crash when I was 16. The Brooks family had treated me like their own, their sprawling home a haven of laughter and love. Ethan and I had been inseparable, sneaking out to watch the stars at Gasworks Park, dreaming of a future together. But I'd thrown it all away, believing Ryan's lie. Ryan's family had drained my inheritance, a modest sum, from my parents' life insurance. They'd claimed it was for medical bills, but I later learned they'd squandered it on luxuries: a new car, a renovated kitchen, while I worked double shifts to keep them afloat. Ryan's mother and sister had been relentless, their insults carving away at my spirit. "You're no wife," they'd sneered, knowing that Ryan's impotence was their secret, not my failure. I'd endured it all, my guilt silencing my protests, my depression growing like a shadow over my heart. Worse still was the role I'd played in Emily's rise. At the University of Washington, I'd befriended Emily, a scholarship student with a shy smile and a knack for blending into the background. When I noticed the Brooks family's regret over my broken engagement, I introduced her to Ethan, thinking she deserved a chance at happiness. Little did I know she and Ryan had orchestrated it all: his fake injury, my marriage, her path to Ethan's wealth. Emily's quiet demeanor hid a calculating mind, one that her own rebirth might have sharpened. Her actions, now so confident and manipulative, suggested she knew more than she let on. I set my coffee down, my fingers tracing the edge of the cup. The pain of losing my unborn child still lingered, a wound that Rebirth hadn't healed. I dreamed of that baby, a girl with Ethan's green eyes, only to hear Ryan order her life snuffed out alongside my ability to be a mother. The memory tightened my chest, but I breathed through it, grounding myself in this new life. The cosmic voice had given me a second chance to undo my mistakes and seek justice. Ryan's obsession with controlling me, his envy of Ethan's success, had driven his deception. He wasn't just a pawn in Emily's game, he wanted me bound to him, a trophy to prove his power. A barista called out an order, snapping me back to the present. I glanced at my phone, the date confirming I was truly back in 2018. Ethan was out there, likely at his startup office in South Lake Union, unaware of the future we'd lost. I thought of his steady presence, his quiet strength during those hospital visits in my past life. He'd never stopped caring, even after I'd pushed him away. Now I had a chance to make things right, to tell him the truth I'd buried for years. But first, I needed to face the accident's fallout to ensure Ryan and Emily couldn't manipulate me again. I left the cafe, stepping into the crisp Seattle air. Pike Place Market bustled nearby, its vendors calling out over the hum of tourists. I headed toward the hospital, knowing Ryan would be there, his real injury a consequence of his own lies. Emily would likely be waiting, ready to spin another web of guilt. But this time I was ready. My rebirth wasn't just a gift, it was a weapon, and I would wield it to reclaim my life and protect those I loved. As I walked, the Space Needle loomed in the distance, a beacon of the new path I'd forge one step at a time. The rain had ceased, but Seattle's streets still glistened under the gray dawn as I stood near the accident site on Pike Street, the air heavy with the scent of wet concrete and distant coffee roasters. The chaos of the previous evening lingered, flashing ambulance lights, Ryan's crumpled form, the crowd's frantic shouts. My elbow throbbed from where I'd grazed the pavement, but my heart was steady, fortified by the cosmic gift of rebirth. I knew Ryan's heroic act was a lie, a ploy to bind me to him, while Emily, his accomplice, schemed to climb into Ethan's wealth. Today, I would not let them pull me back into their web. As paramedics loaded Ryan into an ambulance, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd, her delicate frame wrapped in a cheap raincoat. Emily, her eyes wide with crocodile tears, rushed toward me, her voice trembling with rehearsed panic. "Sarah, you can't leave," she cried, grabbing my arm with surprising force. "Ryan got hit saving you. How can you walk away?" Her words were a performance, each syllable calculated to guilt me into submission. But her confidence, the way she anticipated my reactions, hinted at something more profound. Had she too been reborn, replaying her past life victory? I yanked my arm free, my voice calm but sharp. "If you're so worried, Emily, why don't you check on him yourself? He's right there bleeding. Or are you too busy playing the martyr?" Her face faltered, her tears momentarily stilled. A bystander, a middle-aged man in a mariner's cap, stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "Lady, she's hurt too. Why are you hounding her?" Another voice chimed in, a woman with a stroller. "The ambulance is here. Let the professionals handle it." The crowd's support emboldened me, their skepticism mirroring my own. Emily's eyes darted between me and the onlookers, her facade cracking under scrutiny. "Sarah, please," she pressed, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "We went to the same school. I know you. Ryan needs you now." Her familiarity, the way she leaned on our tenuous connection from the University of Washington, confirmed my suspicion. She wasn't just manipulative, she was reliving a script where I'd fallen for her act before. I stepped closer, my gaze locking onto hers. "Let's be clear, Emily. We were never friends. You don't know me, and I don't owe Ryan anything. If you're so concerned, go to him. Unless you're afraid he'll expose your little game." Emily's lips parted, but no words came. The crowd murmured their whispers, a chorus of doubt. "What's her deal?" someone muttered. "Sounds like she's got an agenda." I turned away, my boots splashing through a puddle as I headed toward the edge of the scene. Ryan's groans faded behind me, replaced by the hum of Seattle's morning traffic. Emily's desperation was a warning. She knew more than she let on, perhaps even the truth of our shared past lives. But I wouldn't let her drag me back into the torment I'd endured for 7 years. My rebirth was a chance to break free, and I would not squander it. As I walked, the Space Needle pierced the skyline, a reminder of the city I'd once loved with Ethan by my side. He was out there now, likely in his South Lake Union office, unaware of the second chance we'd been given. I needed to find him to rebuild what I'd lost. But first, I had to ensure Ryan and Emily's lies couldn't touch me again. The hospital loomed ahead, where Ryan would be recovering, and I knew Emily would follow, ready to spin her next move. I straightened my shoulders, my resolve hardening. This time I would face them on my terms, armed with the truth and the power to rewrite my fate. The sun broke through Seattle's clouds as I stepped out of the hospital, my elbow bandaged but my spirit unyielding. Harborview Medical Center buzzed with activity, nurses rushing past with clipboards, families huddled in waiting rooms. I'd checked on my injuries, minor scrapes, nothing broken, but my mind was on Ethan Brooks, the man I'd loved since we were kids, sneaking ice cream from his family's Capitol Hill kitchen. In my past life, I'd pushed him away, breaking our engagement to marry Ryan out of misguided gratitude. Now reborn, I saw the depth of what I'd lost and was determined to make it right. As I reached the hospital's entrance, a familiar figure sprinted toward me, his dark hair disheveled, his green eyes wide with worry. "Sarah," Ethan called, his voice cutting through the morning air. He stopped short, scanning me for injuries. "I heard about the accident on the news. Are you okay?" His concern, so genuine, pierced my heart. In my past life, he'd driven me to Ryan's bedside, his support unwavering even as I drifted away. Now seeing him here, I realized how much guilt he'd carried for not stopping me pain from our broken future. "I'm fine, Ethan," I said, my voice softer than I intended. Just a few scrapes. He stepped closer, his hand hovering near my bandaged arm, hesitant to touch. You scared me, he admitted, his jaw tight. When I heard a truck hit someone on Pike Street, I thought... He trailed off, his eyes revealing a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. Ethan had been my rock in my past life, but I'd never asked about his own struggles, too consumed by my guilt. Now I saw his weight and the fear of losing me again. We walked to his car, a sleek Tesla parked haphazardly in the hospital lot, a testament to his haste. As we drove through Seattle's streets, the Fremont Troll looming in the distance, I broke the silence. Ethan, I'm sorry for everything. For breaking our engagement, for shutting you out. My voice trembled, the trauma of my past life surfacing, the years of abuse, the loss of my unborn child. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself for that. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel, his knuckles white. Sarah, you don't owe me an apology, he said, his voice low. I should have fought harder for you. When you chose Ryan, I let you go because I thought it was what you wanted. But every day I regretted it. I saw how his family treated you, and I couldn't do enough to protect you. His confession stunned me. In my past life, I'd stopped him from confronting Ryan's family, afraid of causing trouble. Now I saw the depth of his love, his guilt mirroring my own. We pulled over near Gasworks Park, the city's skyline shimmering across Lake Union. Ethan turned to me, his eyes searching. I never stopped loving you, Sarah. Even when you were married, I'd drive by your house hoping you were okay. I failed you once. I won't again. His words cracked something open inside me, the pain of my past life mingling with hope for this one. I reached for his hand, my fingers intertwining with his. You didn't fail me, Ethan. I failed myself. But I'm here now, and I want us to start again. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared history settling between us. I thought of Ryan now in the hospital with a real broken leg, his lies exposed by my rebirth. Emily's manipulative tears at the accident scene lingered in my mind, her actions suggesting she too might be reborn, driven by the same ambition that had won her Ethan's wealth in my past life. But I wouldn't let them win. The cosmic force that had given me the second chance had also awakened my strength, and I felt unstoppable with Ethan by my side. As we drove back toward Capitol Hill, the radio played a soft indie tune, and I glanced at Ethan, his profile strong against the morning light. I said, "Let's see your parents." A smile tugging at my lips. It's time we talk about our future. Ethan's eyes lit up, a spark of the boy I'd loved since our teens. The road ahead was uncertain, but I felt ready to face it for the first time, to reclaim the love and life I'd lost, one bold step at a time. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air as I sat in a quiet examination room at Harborview Medical Center, the hum of Seattle's morning traffic barely audible through the window. The nurse, a kind woman with a gentle smile, finished bandaging my elbow, her hands steady as she applied the final strip of tape. "Just superficial scrapes," she said, her voice soothing. "You're lucky, Sarah. Take it easy for a few days." I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere, tangled in the memories of a life I'd lived and lost. The physical pain was nothing compared to the ache in my chest, a wound carved by 7 years of betrayal and the loss of a child I'd never hold. Alone in the room, I let the silence settle, my fingers tracing the edge of the bandage. The cosmic force that had granted me rebirth, a voice that spoke of purity and fragile destinies, had given me a chance to rewrite my story, but it hadn't erased the scars. In my past life, I'd endured Ryan's family's cruelty, their insults branding me as barren while they hid his impotence. I'd worked tirelessly, my barista wages swallowed by their demands, my parents' inheritance drained for their luxuries. Worst of all was the memory of my pregnancy, a fleeting hope shattered when Ryan ordered my uterus removed, his cold voice echoing in my mind, "It's for the best." The loss of that child, a girl I'd imagined with Ethan's green eyes, had plunged me into a depression that haunted me even now. I closed my eyes, breathing through the pain. Rebirth had given me clarity, but it also forced me to face the trauma I'd buried. I'd been naive believing Ryan's sacrificing my love for Ethan to repay a lie debt. Ethan, who'd stood by me even as I pushed him away, deserved better. His confession in the car, his guilt for not protecting me, had cracked open my heart. I needed to heal not just for myself, but for the future we could build together. The door creaked open, and Ethan stepped inside, his dark hair still damp from the morning mist. His green eyes softened as they met mine, but worry lingered in their depths. Sarah, you okay? He asked, pulling a chair close. I nodded, but my throat tightened, the weight of my past life spilling over. Ethan, I need to tell you something. I began, my voice trembling. Those 7 years with Ryan, they broke me. His family's abuse, losing my baby, it left scars I'm still carrying. I was so depressed I barely recognized myself. I don't want to hide that from you. Ethan's jaw clenched, his hand reaching for mine. Sarah, I saw how they treated you. I wanted to step in to drag you out of that house, but you stopped me every time. I blamed myself for letting you stay in that hell. His voice cracked, revealing a vulnerability I'd overlooked in my past life. I should have fought harder and told you how much I loved you, but feared pushing you away completely. His honesty disarmed me, the shared pain knitting us closer. You didn't fail me, Ethan, I said, squeezing his hand. I failed myself, letting guilt control me. But now, with this second chance, I want to heal with you. We sat silently, the hospital's hum a backdrop to our shared resolve. Ethan's thumb traced circles on my hand, a small gesture that anchored me. I thought of Ryan now, in a hospital bed with a genuinely broken leg, his lies exposed by my rebirth. Emily's manipulative tears at the accident scene lingered, her actions hinting at her rebirth, a knowledge of the past life where she'd won Ethan's wealth. But I wouldn't let their schemes touch me again. Let's go home, I said, standing. I want to see your parents and start rebuilding what we lost. Ethan smiled, a flicker of hope in his eyes, and we left the hospital. The Seattle skyline a promise of a new beginning. The drive to Capitol Hill was quiet, the soft hum of Ethan's Tesla blending with the patter of fresh rain on the windshield. Seattle's streets, lined with cherry blossoms just beginning to bloom, felt like a canvas for the new life I was painting. Ethan's confession in the hospital had lifted a weight from my heart, but the trauma of my past life still lingered, a shadow I was determined to outrun. I glanced at him, his profile strong against the gray light, and felt a surge of courage. In my past life, I'd buried my love for him, afraid of losing our sibling-like bond. Now reborn, I wouldn't let fear silence me. We pulled into the driveway of the Brooks' sprawling craftsman home, its cedar shingles glistening with rain. Memories flooded back, summers chasing fireflies in the backyard, winters baking cookies with Mrs. Brooks, Ethan teaching me to ride a bike on these streets. After my parents' death, the Brooks family had taken me in, raising me as their own. Ethan and I had been inseparable, our engagement a natural step until I broke it for Ryan's lie. Now, standing on the porch, I knew it was time to reclaim what I'd lost. The house smelled of lavender and fresh bread, Mrs. Brooks's signature. She greeted us with a warm hug, her eyes crinkling with joy. Sarah, you're safe. We heard about the accident. Mr. Brooks, reading a newspaper by the fireplace, looked up with concern. You're not hurt, are you? I shook my head, smiling. Just a few scrapes. I'm okay, thanks to Ethan. He squeezed my hand, his warmth grounding me. We sat in the living room, the Space Needle visible through the window, and I took a deep breath, my heart racing with what I was about to do. Ethan, I said, turning to him, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. I must say something to your parents because they're my family too. His eyes widened, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Back in high school, when you fought those bullies for me behind Fremont High, I fell in love with you. I've loved you ever since, but I was too scared to say it, afraid it'd ruin what we had. I pushed you away, married Ryan, and lost everything. But now, I'm not scared anymore. I love you, Ethan. Do you love me too? The room fell silent, the crackle of the fireplace the only sound. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed, his green eyes searching mine. I feared I'd moved too fast for a moment, but then he smiled, a warm, unguarded smile lit up his face. Sarah, I've loved you since we were kids, stealing ice cream and dreaming under the stars. I never stopped, even when you chose Ryan. I was waiting for you to come back to me. His words, raw and honest, melted the last of my doubts. Mrs. Brooks gasped, her hands clasped, while Mr. Brooks chuckled. About time, you two. I laughed, tears pricking my eyes, and seized the moment. Since we love each other, shouldn't we talk about a wedding? I've already confessed. Don't make me propose, too. Ethan's laughter filled the room, a sound I'd missed for years. All right, he said, his voice warm. I'll talk to Mom and Dad about planning something soon. The sooner the better. Mrs. Brooks clapped, already listing venues, Chihuly Garden maybe, or a waterfront spot on Puget Sound. Mr. Brooks winked at me, his pride evident. As we talked, my mind flickered to Ryan recovering in the hospital, his real injury a consequence of his deceit. Emily's manipulative pleas at the accident scene echoed her confidence, suggesting she was reborn, plotting to repeat her past life triumph. Ryan's obsession with controlling me, his envy of Ethan's success as a tech mogul drove their scheme, but I wouldn't let them win. With Ethan's hand in mine and the Brooks' support, I felt invincible. We stepped outside the rain now, a gentle mist, and I looked at Ethan, his smile a beacon. I said, "Let's make this life count." He nodded, pulling me close. The future was ours, and I was ready to fight for it. The soft glow of morning light filtered through the windows of the Brooks Capitol Hill home, casting warm shadows across the hardwood floors. I stood in the living room, my hand clasped in Ethan's as Mrs. Brooks bustled around us, her excitement palpable. "We'll need to call the florist for peonies," she said, scribbling notes for our wedding. "And maybe book the Olympic Sculpture Park. It's perfect for a spring ceremony." Mr. Brooks, sipping coffee by the fireplace, grinned. "About time you two made it official. Sarah, you're already our daughter." Their warmth enveloped me, starkly contrasting with the cold years I'd spent in my past life tethered to Ryan's manipulative family. Ethan and I had just returned from the King County Courthouse, and our marriage license was tucked safely in my purse. The weight of it felt like a promise, a tangible step toward the future I'd lost in my first life. As we sat on the plush sofa, Ethan pulled a folder from his briefcase, his expression serious. "Sarah." "There's something else," he said, sliding the folder toward me. "Your parents' inheritance, the money they left you after the crash. Dad invested it over the years, and it's tripled. It's yours, all of it." I opened the folder, my breath catching at the figures stocks, bonds, a trust fund now worth millions. In my past life, Ryan's family had drained every cent, claiming it for medical bills. Now it was restored a lifeline to my independence. Tears pricked my eyes, not just for the money, but for the love the Brooks family had shown me, safeguarding my future even when I'd turned away from them. "Thank you," I whispered, looking at Mr. Brooks. "You didn't have to do this." He waved a hand, his eyes kind. "Your family, Sarah. Always have been." Ethan squeezed my hand, his green eyes steady. "We'll get a prenup notarized to protect it, but what to do with it is your call." I shook my head, smiling. "Keep investing it. I trust you guys. Besides, I'm not going anywhere." Our moment of joy was interrupted by a call from Harborview Medical Center. Ryan was out of surgery, and I needed to see him, not out of guilt, but to ensure his lies couldn't touch me again. Ethan drove us to the hospital, the Seattle skyline glittering under a rare clear sky. As we entered Ryan's room, the sterile scent of antiseptic hit me, and I braced myself. He lay in bed, his leg in a cast, his hazel eyes burning with fury as they locked onto me. "Sarah, you did this," he spat, his voice hoarse. "You let that truck hit me. You owe me." His accusation was a desperate grasp, but his intensity, how he seemed to know I'd acted deliberately, confirmed my suspicion Ryan was reborn, too reliving the moment he'd used to trap me. In my past life, he'd faked his injury to manipulate me, driven by a twisted need to control me and envy of Ethan's success as a tech mogul. He wasn't just Emily's pawn. He wanted me as a trophy to prove his power over the man he resented. I said coolly, "Your leg's broken for real this time," crossing my arms. "Karma's fair, Ryan. You don't get to dump your mess on me." His face contorted, suspicion flickering in his eyes. "You know, don't you?" He whispered, his voice low enough that the nurse adjusting his IV didn't hear. "You're different, like you've done this before." I didn't flinch, my gaze steady. "What goes around comes around. You made your choice 7 years ago. Live with it now." Ethan stepped forward, his presence a shield. "Enough, Ryan. Leave her alone, or I'll ensure everyone knows what you did." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, his silence a concession. As we left the hospital, I felt a weight lift. The cosmic force that had granted me rebirth, that ancient voice speaking of purity and destiny, had given me the strength to face Ryan without fear. Emily's manipulative shadow loomed, her reborn knowledge, likely driving her to repeat her past life schemes, but I was ready. With Ethan's and Brooks' support, I built a future untainted by lies. We drove back to Capitol Hill, the Space Needle a beacon of hope, and I leaned against Ethan, my heart full. Our wedding was coming, and with it a life I'd fight to protect. The University of Washington campus buzzed with spring energy cherry blossoms carpeting the quad as students hurried to classes. I walked through Red Square, my backpack slung over one shoulder, my bandaged elbow a faint reminder of the accident. The past week had been a whirlwind. Ethan and I were married, my inheritance secured, and Ryan's actual injury poetic justice. But a new challenge emerged. Whispers followed me, students casting sidelong glances, their murmurs sharp with judgment. "That's her," one said, nodding toward me. "Left a guy to die after he saved her. Heartless." I recognized the source immediately. Ryan and Emily, desperate to salvage their crumbling plans, had spread rumors to paint me as a villain. In my past life, I'd been too broken to fight back my depression, silencing me as their lies took root. Now reborn, I wouldn't let them win. I found Ethan at the hub, his tech startup's logo on his laptop as he worked in a quiet corner. "They're slandering me," I said, sliding into the seat beside him. "Rumors about the accident. We need to check the traffic footage from Pike Street." Ethan's eyes darkened, his protective instinct flaring. "I'll get my team on it. We'll find the truth." As I left my literature class that afternoon, Emily appeared pushing Ryan in a wheelchair across the quad. Her eyes, sharp with hate, locked onto me, but her voice dripped with false concern. "Sarah, Ryan's leg is broken because of you." "How can you go on with your life?" Ryan played along his face, a mask of noble suffering. "I chose to save you, Sarah. I don't regret it, but you could show some gratitude." Their performance was polished, but I saw the cracks. Emily's calculated tone, Ryan's fleeting glance of triumph. Both of them were reborn, replaying their past life script to guilt me into submission. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "If you didn't spread these rumors, swear it. Swear on your leg, Ryan, that it wasn't you, or may it stay broken forever." His face paled, his hesitation betraying him. Emily's composure slipped, her eyes darting to Ryan. "We're just trying to clear the air," she stammered. "People are talking, but it's not us." The lie was flimsy, and I pressed harder. "Then you won't mind me taking this to the police. Slander's a crime, and I'll find the evidence to prove it. No exceptions." Students nearby paused, their curiosity piqued, but I didn't need their validation. Ethan joined me, his presence grounding. "I've got my team pulling the footage," he said, his voice firm. "If you're lying, Emily Ryan, it's over." Ryan's expression shifted, a flicker of fear confirming his reborn knowledge. He knew I'd seen through his act just as he'd orchestrated it in our past life. Emily's desperation mirrored his. Her ambition to reclaim Ethan's wealth drove her every move. She wasn't just manipulative, she relived her victory unaware I'd changed the rules. We left them in the quad, their silence a victory. At Ethan's office in South Lake Union, his team delivered the traffic footage crystal clear on a large monitor. It showed Ryan running toward me, but I deliberately stepped aside, the truck hitting him as he stumbled into its path. "It's enough to clear your name," Ethan set, his hand on my shoulder, "and to expose their lies." I nodded, my resolve hardening. The cosmic force that had reborn me had also given me the tools to fight back truth evidence and Ethan's unwavering support. The Seattle skyline glowed under a setting sun as we drove home, and the Olympic Mountains were a distant promise. Emily and Ryan's schemes were unraveling, but I knew they'd try again, their reborn memories fueling their desperation. I thought of my past life's trauma, the abuse, the lost child, and felt a spark of defiance. I wasn't that broken woman anymore. With Ethan by my side, I'd face whatever came next, ready to turn their lies against them and protect the life we were building. The University of Washington's quad was alive with the hum of spring cherry blossoms drifting like confetti across the brick paths of Red Square. I walked toward my literature class, my phone tucked in my pocket, its recording app ready. The traffic footage Ethan's team had secured had cleared my name, proving I hadn't caused Ryan's accident, but the rumors he and Emily spread still lingered, a venomous attempt to tarnish me. In my past life, their lies had broken me, feeding my depression, until I was a shadow of myself. Now reborn, I was done being their victim. The cosmic force that had granted me this second chance, its ancient voice whispering of purity and fragile destinies, had armed me with clarity, and I was ready to strike back. As I crossed the quad, I overheard a hushed conversation near Sozalo Library. Emily's voice sharp and low. "We framed Sarah as unfaithful," she said, her tone cold. "Get someone to plant evidence, photos, texts, anything to make Ethan doubt her. He'll divorce her, and I'll step in." Ryan in his wheelchair sounded panicked. "If this backfires, Emily, we could go to jail. You said this would work last time." His words confirmed what I'd suspected. Both were reborn, reliving their past life scheme to secure Emily's place in Ethan's wealth. I hit record, my heart steady, as I hid behind a tree, capturing every word. Emily scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're spineless, Ryan. If you won't do it, I'll find someone who will. Don't expect me to drag you along when I'm living in Ethan's mansion." Ryan's voice trembled. "Fine, I'll do it. Just don't leave me out." Their plan was clear: frame me, break my marriage, and repeat their past triumph. But this time, I was one step ahead. I slipped away, texting Ethan. Meet me at the alley near Pike Place. They're planning something. Bring backup. That evening, as the sun dipped below Seattle's skyline, I walked toward the alley behind Pike Place Market, the scent of fresh fish and flowers mingling in the air. Ethan had arranged for a trusted friend, a former security guard named Jake, to tail me discreetly. I sensed a figure following me, their steps quickening as I entered the alley's shadows. My pulse raced, but I trusted Ethan's plan. As the stalker, a hired thug, judging by his build, lunged, Jake emerged, knocking him out swiftly. Ethan appeared moments later, his eyes scanning me for injuries. You okay? He asked, his voice tight. I nodded, adrenaline surging. Let's finish this. We dragged the unconscious thug deeper into the alley where Emily and Ryan were waiting, expecting their plan to unfold. Ryan's eyes widened as he saw us, his wheelchair creaking as he shifted. Emily's face paled, her reborn confidence crumbling. Ethan and I acted fast, staging a scene. We stripped the thug Emily and Ryan to their underclothes, positioning them in a compromising tangle. Jake called a tip to the police, and we retreated to the crowd gathering at the alley's mouth, drawn by the commotion. A passerby, a vendor from the market, laughed. Whoa, a three-way in public? That's bold. Emily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Seeing the crowd's shocked stares, she screamed, It's not what it looks like. Someone set me up. Her voice drew more onlookers, their phones flashing as they recorded. She spotted me, her eyes blazing with hatred. Sarah, you did this, she shrieked, pointing. Ethan stepped forward, his voice cold. No, Emily. You did this to yourself. I've got your recorded plan framing Sarah, slandering her. The police have it now. He held up my phone, the evidence secure. Emily collapsed, muttering, This wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to marry you. Her words confirmed her rebirth, her obsession with reliving her past life victory, blinding her to the new reality I'd shaped. Ryan, silent, stared at me, his face a mix of fear and realization. The police arrived, their sirens cutting through the market's hum, and cuffed the trio for defamation and attempted assault. As they were led away, I felt a surge of triumph. The trauma of my past life, the abuse, the lost child had fueled my resolve, and now, with Ethan by my side, I'd turned their lies against them. We walked away, the Space Needle glowing in the distance, symbolizing the justice I'd claimed. 2 years later, Seattle bloomed with summer vibrancy, the air warmed with pine and salt water. Ethan and I had settled into married life in the Brooks Capitol Hill home, refusing their offer of a separate house. The memories of my past life, 7 years of abuse, the loss of my unborn child, still ached, but they no longer defined me. The cosmic force that had reborn me, its voice of purity and destiny, had given me a chance to heal, and I'd embraced it, building a life with Ethan rooted in love and trust. Ryan and Emily, sentenced to 2 and 3 years for their crimes, faced their own reckonings. Ryan, released early, was nearly beaten to death by Emily's brother and left bleeding on a Tacoma street. Emily, granted early release, was rushed into a marriage with a volatile gambler, her wedding marred by public humiliation when he slapped her over a dowry dispute. I sat on our porch, a glass of lemonade in hand, watching kids bike down the street, their laughter echoing. Ethan was at his South Lake Union office, his tech startup thriving, but he'd promised to be home early. My hand rested on my stomach, a flutter of excitement confirming the news I'd share tonight. I was pregnant. The memory of my lost child tempered the joy, but this time I felt hope, a future untainted by Ryan's lies. A shadow moved at the yard's edge as I sipped my drink. Ryan, in his wheelchair, his face gaunt, lunged toward me, his hands closing around my neck. You were supposed to marry me, he rasped, his eyes wild. Why, Ethan? I gasped, clawing at his hands, my vision blurring. Suddenly his grip loosened as Ethan, home early, tackled him, the wheelchair clattering to the ground. Sarah, Ethan shouted, checking me as I coughed, air rushing back. The police arrived swiftly, dragging Ryan away as he screamed, You're mine, Sarah. His delusion, fueled by his reborn memories and obsessive need to control me, had driven him to this final act. Ethan held me close, his warmth steadying me. You're okay, he whispered, his green eyes fierce with protectiveness. In our cozy living room, the fireplace casting a soft glow that night, I decided it was time for the truth. Ethan, there's something I need to tell you. I began, my voice steady. I was reborn, sent back to the accident to rewrite my fate. I lived those 7 years with Ryan, lost a child, everything. I didn't tell you because I feared you'd think I was crazy. Ethan's eyes widened, but he smiled, his hand finding mine. Sarah, I know. I was reborn too. I woke up that same day knowing I'd lost you to Ryan. I thanked God for this chance to get you back. His revelation stunned me, tears welling as I realized we'd both been given this gift. You're not mad. I was married to him before I asked, my voice small. Ethan shook his head, his gaze warm. I thank fate we're here now together. I leaned close, my heart full, and whispered, There's more. You're going to be a dad. Ethan's face lit up, his shock mirroring when I'd kissed him years ago. Really, he asked, and when I nodded, he lifted me in his arms, spinning me gently. Sarah, this is amazing. I love you. As we held each other, the Seattle skyline sparkled through the window, the Space Needle a beacon of our new beginning. Ryan's obsession, Emily's schemes, and the pain of my past life had all been overcome. The cosmic force had given us both a second chance, and we'd seized it, building a future where love and justice prevailed. I rested my head on Ethan's chest, feeling our child's heartbeat echo with possibility, ready for the life we'd create together.